Now that your zine is constructed, let me give you a tour of how I created mine. I used a pencil eraser, detail pen, and colored pencils for mine. First, I begin by lightly sketching out the front cover. The title of mine is These Are a Few of My Favorite Things. Pages 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and back cover. With my sketch complete, I open up the zine flat so I can trace with my detail pen and erase gently so I don't wrinkle or tear my paper. I'll be using colored pencils, but you're welcome to use other materials like markers, watercolors, or even collage. Oh, and crayons! How could I forget crayons? Okay, so bear with me on this one. We need to talk about sharpener skills. I know, you're thinking, well, everyone knows how to use a sharpener. Why do you have to talk about it? My colored pencils are really picky and they do not like it when I sharpen them to a really sharp point. Because what happens is, whenever I go to use them, their nose sometimes falls off. Here's a comic I illustrated to show you what I'm talking about. Please don't sharpen my nose to a point. Sadly, it always falls off. Shading is one of my favorite things to do. To shade successfully, you need to know how much pressure to use on your colored pencil. As you can see, I started out with light pressure on the left, and a darker or heavier pressure on the right, and medium pressure in the middle. Be careful not to push too hard, because you could break your pencil's nose. Another way to make an area darker is to stay in one general area and keep applying thin layers of color. Slowly the color will build up and it will start to look a little bit darker. When fading one color into another, the spot in the middle is where the lightest amount of both colors meet. They actually overlap there. I'm going to be using 3 different colored pencils. First, I'll start with a medium orange, and then a deeper orange, and then a red. Finished, I go back in with each of the colors to make sure that they fade and blend together really well. Next, I have 3 pairs of shapes. The first pair is going to look flat. I'm using just 1 yellow colored pencil and 1 blue colored pencil. It almost looks like 2 pieces of construction paper set next to each other. Next, I'm going to use the same yellow and blue to color in the next 2 pairs. Back to the second pair, I'm adding some darker shades of yellow toward the bottom of the circle. I'm doing the same thing to the square, but I'm trying to make the blue darker right next to the circle so it looks like the circle is in front of the square. Do you see the shadow? It's much different from the first pair that still look very flat. I want my last pair to look like three-dimensional forms. I don't want them to look flat like a circle, but three-dimensional like a sphere, and not flat like a square, but three-dimensional like a cube. When thinking about my light source, I'm going to use my sharpener as if it was the sun. If the sun is on the top right, it would hit the top of the cube and it would be lighter. The side would be slightly darker, and the front would be the darkest because the sun isn't shining there. Shadows are going to give the illusion that the sphere and cube are actually three-dimensional. Thinking about the light source again, I'm considering if the sun were shining, where would the shadows be cast? The shadows will be darkest right next to the shapes and then fade slightly lighter. The first time I did the letters of shading, I faded from a medium orange to a red. This time, I'm shading a light purple in the middle to a dark purple around the outside edges of each letter. Hopefully it's going to create a look like it is a bubble letter or kind of like a balloon. I thought it would look really cool to have some green slime oozing out underneath the purple word shading. So you're going to see me using several colors of green, starting with the lighter color, and then shading where objects are on top, like where the letters meet the slime, and certainly the edges of the slime to make it look like it's oozing out. Now that my zine is finished, let's take a tour and follow the pink ribbon. We talked about shading and the importance of using pressure, light, medium, and dark, and how shading and creating shadows makes something look three-dimensional. And lastly, shark tooth hunting, which is my favorite outdoor activity. I decided my back cover would be the perfect place to write down some things I'm grateful for. I have a special surprise for you. Look what happens when I open up my zine and lay it flat. There's something hiding underneath. It's an entire page of shaded ribbons. If you would like to color and shade your own set of ribbons, you can download my coloring sheet at slowdownsnails.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're excited to create your own zine. They're really fun, they're small, they're tiny, and they're great to bring around and travel and share with friends and family.